we've been set up as the National Innovation Agency, and we were set up through an Act of Parliament, and we're here for 10 years. So what we're trying to do is, first of all, address what we call the ecosystem of innovation, as well as looking at wealth creation as a whole. So what wealth creation opportunities there are for us as a country. Now, in terms of the innovation, ecosystem for innovation, there's 6 core areas that we're looking at. Firstly, cultivating a thinking culture. So this is looking at how we can basically equip our next generation with higher order thinking skills and tools that are going to help us become more innovative. For example, we have a program called I Think, which is introducing thinking skills to our schools, higher order thinking tools. So we started with the introduction of the use of thinking maps, 8 different thinking maps that can be used in any given situation by the school children, trying to move the school children away from rote learning. So this program is currently being rolled out to all our 10,000 schools, working very closely with the Ministry of Education. We also have a design thinking school called Inovasi, which has a 10-week design thinking program, and that is targeted at young working adults, both from the private sector as well as from our government ministries and agencies. So this is the area of what we call cultivating a thinking culture. Then we also have programs looking at how to bring industry and academia to work more closely together and collaborating. We've got a program called Steinbeis, which is a platform that allows industry companies to directly engage researchers to undertake development or research work for them. What this does is, first of all, the researchers would be allowed to spend 20% of their time. These are researchers from both our public universities as well as our research institutes, and even from the private universities. What it does is, they'd be allowed to spend 20% of their time taking on projects from companies and getting paid for it. Also being allowed to use the labs and equipment of our universities and research institutes and getting paid for which they'll be paid a rental. So what this does is the private sector would be able to tap into the vast knowledge and expertise of these researchers. The researchers, on the other hand, not only getting paid, but also get a better insight into what's required by industry, as opposed to just working in silos and doing their own research. The next area is looking at transforming strategic sectors. Here we're looking at identifying strategic sectors in the economy and trying to find new wealth creation opportunities. To give you an example, we came up with a national biomass strategy, which is looking at what opportunities there are for us to use the biomass that's being generated in various sectors, primarily the palm oil sector. We're the second largest producer of crude palm oil in the country, and we generate about 80 million tons of palm oil biomass, in addition to the 18 million tons of crude palm oil that's being generated in the country. Now, there's tremendous opportunities as a country for us to use this biomass for much higher value-added industries. There's opportunities for us to create new downstream industries in bioethanol, biochemicals, bioplastics, second-generation biofuels. And so what we did was we actually mapped out where all this biomass is available in different parts of the country and at what cost to mobilize. And this is what is providing the catalyst now for the players in these new downstream industries globally to be looking at Malaysia and seeing where we can create these new industries. And finally, we're looking at innovating organizations. So what needs to be done in the private sector? How can we get our private sector to be more focused on looking at creating new opportunities for themselves? The way technology is moving these days, disruptive innovations can just come along and totally disrupt whatever industry you're in. So we have been engaging with the private sector and sort of highlighting that, we need, no matter what industry you're in, you need to look at innovation. You need to think about what new things you should be looking at. So what we've done is we've created some tools as to what it means to be investing in innovation. Because what this means is that there's many intangible areas that companies need to look at if they want to become innovative. It's not just about doing R&D and creating IPs, intellectual property. It's much more than that. It's much broader than that. When you look at a company, if you look at their balance sheet, all you see are tangible assets, the plant and machinery, cash in the bank, and debtors. But you would have no idea what they're doing in terms of developing the human capital, developing their relationships with suppliers and customers, even the R&D that they're doing. So all this comes into this area that we call intellectual capital. And at the end of the day, companies that are more focused on developing all these intangible areas are more likely to come up with new innovations than companies that are just focused on building the brick and mortar. So we've been developing these tools, and we've also developed some concepts on how you can actually measure the returns that you get from investing in these intangible areas.
That's the National Corporate Innovation Index?
Yes, not directly, but we created this National Corporate Innovation Index with the view that it's not so much of wanting to rank companies. Ultimately, that's where we would like to head. But what we're trying to do is to get companies to be looking at themselves, using these tools that we are providing, to be and looking at themselves and making a self-assessment. So what am I doing in these different areas, and what should I be doing? Ultimately, that it's going to be where they then stand in this index. But our goal is not really to start ranking companies now, but to get them to actually look at what they should be doing in this space.